Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Friday Night Live. So glad to be here tonight. I'm joined by our uh, utility man and special guest coordinator, Ed Stark.
Hello, I got a new title.
Oh, yes. Ed, you do much more than just special guest coordination. And our good friend from the Blind Bard YouTube channel, Jennifer Cash. Hello.
Hello, how's everyone doing tonight?
Good, good.
I'm doing great.
So you
You
guys
know,
know we always count on Jen to be the one who preps for everything. She,
I try.
right? She's the one who Phil actually does stuff, and Phil's on
yeah.
special assignment tonight. So um, let me start sharing some of the sharing this out to our other Facebook groups, so we start piling in. I just got done playing a great session of D&D with my group. They uh, they found a graveyard of giants that they visited and had some very interesting interactions. So it was a fun game and really enjoyed it tonight.
I
Oh,
saw some great pictures on Facebook.
Absolutely. We took a bunch of pictures. The terrain setup was great, but listen, we've got a lot going on at Page, and I'm so pleased to have our special guest tonight. The he was actually the very first special guest that I reached out to when uh, we launched Page originally, and uh, you know I made the ask, and he agreed to come, and the rest is history. And Frank Mentzer's one of Page's biggest draws, and he's from the Philadelphia area, from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, which borders Philadelphia. And here he is, Frank.
Good
Welcome to the
evening,
show.
all. Greetings from Beloit, Wisconsin.
Home of the Beloit Snappers.
Yep.
Good to see you, Frank. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, great opportunity here to speak to everyone, answer some questions. Good to see Ron again after a few months.
Yeah.
Everything's been going great on my end. How about you? What do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, we'd like to talk about your health to start off with. I mean, it's not a secret that you've had some health challenges, but looking at you tonight, you look lean, you look mean, you look handsome. How are you feeling?
Great these days. Everything's been adding up quite well. Long and the short of it, last August, my kidneys finally gave their last gasp. They had been failing for a year or two, really. And when that happens, you get toxic. Basically, your body isn't getting rid of the junk that it's supposed to. And when the kidneys give out, basically, you even stop peeing. So nothing's coming out except the back end. So emergency measures and artificial means need to be taken to keep you alive. I'm on a very thin thread. If I don't have my dialysis, the blood cleaning, then in about 2 weeks I would be probably dead. 3 it was. So I'm hanging from the thread of modern technology, but it's going great in the process. The startling thing personally has been, as you might see in my face and arms, especially, I was around 240, 250 when I was at Page, the first Page. I'm now down around 160, 150 something to 160 because of all the weight that gets lost from all the water that they remove in the course of hooking you up to the machine at the clinic and doing that for 10 months now. Well, it's had miraculous results. yes, I have to keep it up the rest of my life, but because I'm keeping it up, the rest of my life might be another decade or two. We'll see.
Well, I'm glad that you've found the best solution that you can find to be able to live live better.
It's
No,
modern med technology. It's just astounding these days.
yeah, no, it really is. And we have a surprise guest for you tonight who is they're having some technical difficulties, so we're trying to get that figured out. But talk to us about I know we're going to talk about Page pretty extensively and what you're going to be doing at Page this year and things like that. But next month, I'm going to be seeing you at EggCon out in Lake Geneva.
Yeah. Not too long ago, just a few years ago, Heidi Gygax, struggling single mom, showed interesting talent in adventure design, inheriting something from her environment, no doubt, her talented father and brothers and all that. And she asked me once if I could help work with her, and I was just overwhelmed at the time. Sadly, I had to say no. And she was also having a rough time in life. I didn't want to rock the boat there either. And she met a guy named Eric. They have been married, happily married ever since. She's doing better than ever. She's cranking out adventures here. It's wonderful. And she has taken up the mantle of the resident Gygax, you could say, of Lake Geneva, now that we've lost Ernie just recently. So she and Eric are spearheading this return to Lake Geneva convention in high summer, late July, called EggCon, named not after eggs, but by E. Gary Gygax, EGG. He's also referred to as an egg here and there in certain bits of game literature over the years. But anyhow, they tried it last year. I did go last year. I was on the verge of falling over. I went to the emergency room like 2 days after last year's EggCon 1. But all is far better now. And despite my illness then, I managed to run 2 or 3 games, help with the auction, did a lot of things, all I could to get this con off to a good start. And indeed, it's doing so. Now, I must compare it here to the Philly Gaming Expo, that you folks have decided to accept all comers, grow as market demands, you might say, and expand. And it's turning into just one of the most amazing cons in the country, standing out on the East Coast alone and drawing attention. Just look at the guest list this year for what we got at in Philadelphia coming up this January. By contrast, Heidi and Eric have chosen to keep it a smaller boutique level con, you might say, cutting off the number of tickets, the attendance, things like that. So you got to get in there quick if you want to get in. But a lot of the surviving, I should say, TSR employees from the 80s and 90s still now, or have returned to, but many of them still live in the greater Lake Geneva area. And so they tend to pop in and say hi, even if they're not running games and whatever. So this becomes a unique opportunity to see a lot of these people outside of the jungle atmosphere of larger, more expensive conventions. I won't mention any by name, but there are others in the area that charge probably 5 times as much to go to between the lodging and all that. So this makes a nice little boutique alternative that I'm proud to support. Hi, Aileen. I see we have a guest.
I don't think she has.
She's still hooking up.
She doesn't have a microphone for some reason. She doesn't have audio, but I figured if we were going to have Bargle on the line, we needed to have Alina at the same time.
Everybody knows Frank, so I thought I went with Bargle.
Yeah. Frank, about EggCon, I've actually never been. I've been meaning to get out there, but I think it's going to be great because it's also, you're going to Lake Geneva in the summer. I mean, beautiful town.
And it's semi-affordable through the plan, the hotel that they
Right.
bought for a couple of hotels. I think.
I got to live out there for a couple of years, and the whole town comes alive in the summer. And now having a convention out there is going to be great.
Right. Yeah. The problem has always been residency cost, really, for any kind of a gathering during summer. That's part of why other conventions pick off-season time for that. Including, for example, up in Madison, they hold Game Hole in end of October, early November, something like that. So that evades not only the tourist crowds, but the problems of winter have not hit yet by the time Game Hole runs. And once again, they have fabulous attendance, lots of guests show up, and so forth. Hey,
I know
this year is knocking me out, and the number of other people who are attending is just wild. People from all over the industry, all over the country, and you're attracting attention overseas as well. You're going to have to think about the overseas market. While I'm on the subject, I was going to suggest, how about a something morning or something noon chat aimed at the European gamer and potential visitor. Noon hits them right around their dinner time or later, and so forth. It might be tricky for us to logisticate. But consider adding something like that to your schedule. I'd be happy to join in, having an awful lot of fans in Italy, especially.
Yeah, I think we could do that. I just have to figure out if we were going to do it regularly. I'd have to figure out, the day of the week that would work the best.
I think with the right advertising, there are Italian D&D clubs on Facebook. You advertise it there, try a one shot, see how the attendance is and the response. And if it goes nuts, then kick it in.
Well, one of the nice things too is once this finishes broadcasting, it's available on YouTube indefinitely. So if we did a one shot for Europe, and even if we didn't have a huge amount of attendance, people could still watch it at their own at their leisure. But yeah, I think that's a neat idea. Ron, didn't we get people from 47 different states and a dozen countries or something last year?
There's 43 states and 7 countries last year.
That's right.
That's impressive.
And the word was spread. It's what, triple the size this year? It's crazy. The growth is just hang on your hands.
Yeah, we started off with 32,500 square feet with another 5,000 square feet at the hotel. This year at the convention center, we have 130,000 or almost 130,000 square feet at the convention center, plus our hotel space for late night gaming. So yeah, we're definitely growing, and we have some cool things that are going on that we're going to fill people in on as we go. And I think of major interest to people this year is, Frank, you're going to be running a couple of events that you haven't run at Page before.
I would have to look at my event schedule to check to what you're referring to. One that I am very fond of, my current bee in my bonnet, as it were, is an approach to standard D&D adventure gaming, where your number one objective, is to get home alive. It's not to kill monsters, gather treasure, do things like that. It's to explore, gather information, do some mapping, information, things like that. Fighting will probably occur, and the idea is to survive it and not fight to the death. So it's just a different orientation, of a different attitude as you go into things, and it has worked splendidly with the groups that I've tried it with. They act like, wow, I've been playing 20 years, and this is like a whole new D&D. It's a different attitude going in right in the gate, and that's what makes all the difference. So we'll see what happens with that sort of thing. Were there other events that you wanted to ask me about? I'm sorry, my memory fails as to what.
Yeah, no worries. I'll pull up what we have on the schedule for you here.
Yeah, for this year, I've been feeling so much better that to 4 different conventions, I sent a list of about 8 to 10 different events that I was prepared to run, pick and choose from these. Physically, I'm not up to 4 events a day. Give me a break. It's not like the old days. But and I used to do this all the time. I would go to a con and I'd be running every slot from start to finish. But now I get to relax a little bit more and just be a little more choosy. So.
Well, I'll tell you what we have on the schedule for you. So on Thursday, we've got the Tower of Merzant. That's for the gold badge holders. I figure you can kill everybody off before you turn into a pumpkin at 10 o'clock. So
yeah, the twist I'm bringing on that is once upon a time, back in the around 83 or so, I designed a massive castle complex as the final round of one of the RPGA tournaments. A lot of people complained it was too tough to get into or survive through, but there was a way to get through and to get all the way up the tower and to your objective. So I'm just going to lay that out for instead of the Tower of Merzant, it's going to be a castle this time. And you can go in individually or in groups, your choice, and see if you can make it in. That should be fun.
That sounds fun.
It does. One of the things, Ron just alluded to is the fact that we're going to have, special events for gold badge holders. I can't wait to announce a few more of them, but that was a great one. So, didn't we twist your arm and make you release a few extra gold badges? Like there are a few available still?
Just a small handful, and they'll only be available until June 30th at the end of the day. And we've got Eileen Reynolds who was the inspiration for Alina the cleric. Unfortunately, besides being sideways on the camera, she's spider climbing. She's clinging to the wall.
Yep.
But it doesn't look like her microphone is on for some reason, and I don't know why that is.
How rough.
There's no microphone for.
Yeah. I'm not even
Eileen.
sure if she can hear us.
Eileen, can you hear us? Shake your head if you can hear us. Oh, hold on. We have a second Alina on. Oh, what's going on? Eileen, can you hear us? Yes? No? I don't think she can hear us.
No.
Maybe she could put something in chat.
It looks like she's going to get on her phone and maybe.
Okay.
No, she's on her phone already and nothing's happening.
Oh, wow.
So, okay. So, Frank, in addition, on Friday morning, there she is again. But I don't know if can you hear us, Eileen? No? Okay. So, Frank, on Friday morning, you're at 10 o'clock. You're going to come right back with Tower of Merzant a second time. We're pushing both those games for our Gamer Assistance Program charity program. And the Friday afternoon at 4, we've got Death in the Wretched Swamp. You want to talk a little bit about that adventure?
Sure, if you like. I've always, whenever I've written adventures and things, I've always tried to do something different. I've seen so much of the same old stuff, over the last 50 years, 45 in my case. So I came up with a really deadly swamp environment, deadly even for higher level characters, and dropped an archetypical dragon lair as I would choose to design it out in the middle of this, enclosed by a bunch of tall rocks. It's black dragons, so they have collected black rocks, and some of them are magical, some of them are coal, and some of them are very valuable gemstones. And if you make it through the swamp and manage to get to these guys, there will be literally more treasure than you could possibly carry out. And you will not want to come back and brave the dangers of the swamp a second time to clean it up and to mop it up for unless the value is high enough, you might want to try it again. You can think of it in terms of Tomb of Horrors, except that I do give you fair warning as long as you're cautious and do your investigations. It is possible to figure things out, unlike Doom of Horrors, which has a lot of guesswork in it. But it is every bit as deadly, perhaps more so, because things will kill you. Essentially, things will kill you at greater range than you are normally used to, and without your knowledge. You won't know what's going on. It's just characters start dropping, and it's, oh my God. So it goes from there. Good luck. I hope you can make it through it. I anticipate that for level 7 to 9, although I might bump it up a little just to increase the survivability of the thing. We will see. That was published, by the way, by Eldritch Enterprises. It was our the last product of mine that we tried, and unfortunately, the art never came together for that before the company folded. So there are some pre-publication copies of that out there, snatched up by collectors at bargain rates. But I didn't jack the prices up, even though it was a collector edition. We just let first come, first serve. And I hope to publish the whole thing eventually through a new company.
Oh, well, that's exciting. Does the new company have a name?
Yeah, we have a name and tentatively a website, although nothing is developed yet, be forewarned, but temporalstudios.com. Temporal as in time.
Temporal.
There will be a variety of subdivisions, the temporal archives of stuff from the history of gamings, and that gets subdivided into family games. I have this vast collection of more than 10,000 American family games. And then also, other branches. So it has just gotten put together, and we're hoping to do a lot with it, including video series, some publication of paper products and PDF, and a variety of other directions. One of the most important directions, though, for the company has to do with the temporal archives, and that gets into interviewing as many notable game folks from the industry as we can pin down while we still have them around. I'd like to talk to people about their time at TSR, basically.
Right.
Margaret Weiss lives just within 20 miles of me here. I can probably get out, if I go out to Utah, I could probably get an interview with Tracy Hickman. He and I were old friends. Ed Greenwood, perhaps, up in near Toronto, Canada. And various others. I'm slighting all sorts of people, but all the folks who are around. Harold Johnson is one who's already been interviewed to some extent. I think they're lining up stuff with Tom Wong and various other folks. But losing Jim Ward and Kim Mohan within the last couple of years shook a lot of folks up, and they decided we want to get folks' memories and the records and this priceless arcana down on tape. Digitally, at least, as long as we still have these folks to talk to, me among them. Now, luckily, my health turned around, and I'm not going the way of my friend Jim Ward, whose diabetes just got to be too much for him, started chewing off bits. Unfortunately, I lost part of myself in the process, but thanks to Modern Med, I'm still around to help be part of the board running these projects and the company, and to put together our plans for the future and all the things that we want to do for you folks, the viewers, to catch all these memories and details that we go chasing around, that we enthuse over when we hear a game personality mention something like this. Well, it's time to get all this down on tape, as well as scanning everything that we can and so on and so forth. So we're tackling that. Temporal Studios.
Temporal Studios. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, that is the world premiere of the name, actually.
So, well, that's outstanding, Frank, and it sounds very ambitious, and I'm very excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. When
Jen,
do you
what-
anticipate it will be up and running?
Oh, heavens. No idea, and it's going to be a while. We're in the middle of wading through, as I say, 10,000 board games in my archive. Massive storage unit, 50 feet long and just 3 shelves tall, etc. Just huge. And that's a whole side project there. Out of that will come an awful lot of hobby game stuff from TSR, Steve Jackson, that I recall I was into for a while, various other companies. as well as then my Americana. That whole project, folks have said, "Oh, how the heck did you end up with 10,000 games?" And I've usually talked about the mechanics of it, having been the lead auctioneer at Gen Con for more than 40 Gen Cons, 45 of them actually, on the West Coast, Indianapolis and Milwaukee, all over the place. But that's how the games sort of accumulated. You see all this stuff go by, and sometimes they're cheap. So, yeah, okay, fine. And you're driving a van, so you can take a whole lot of them home. So it's, you get into trouble. The actual topic, though, and this, if you think about it, it's all very logical, but it may surprise some folks. And this is why I've been doing this from the beginning. It's a branch of cultural anthropology. The covers and topics selected for these family games from the 1940s all the way on up to the year 2000 illustrate the interests, the changes in focus and style and social aspects and what the norms are. One of the famous illustrations is the game of Battleship from Milton Bradley back in the, I think it was 66 or so. And they emphasize the game for the whole family. And it shows Dad and the son playing the game out in the dining room with the table cleared. But Mom and daughter are cleaning the dishes, watching the guys play a game. And it's, yeah, this was our roots, and this was the segregation of gender roles and all that back then. But and these games helped to illustrate that was common attitude back then, and we've evolved beyond that. And it's examples like that that help illustrate how much we have evolved beyond that in so many different ways. So hopefully I am quite prepared to donate 10,000 games to an institution or a state if somebody is interested enough and sees it the way I do, as a cultural exhibition, and puts the time in, and I can provide most of what you need to illustrate all the points you need to make along the way. So we'll see what happens.
So with that, I'll throw the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, game libraries hat into the ring.
Mm-hmm.
As
we have actually, we have already discussed this, Ron, and I have an awful lot of duplicates of various common family games of the last 50 years. We can easily, and it's on the project list, to just pull out when we find dupes. If there's one in decent shape, not the best of the batch, but it's complete, it's in decent shape, not musty or moldy or anything, fine, that goes in the stack to go to Paige.
That would be great. We would
I might end up dropping 100 or more games on you. We'll just see what surfaces by next January. I do need a little more labor, volunteer labor power. So if you want to work in a game paradise, unfortunately, in high summer in a hot storage unit, sorting through games so we can figure out, we're still trying to figure out what we've got. There's just too much.
I saw the list of I saw the voluminous 3M bookshelf games that you had on the shelf. But yeah, when you're ready, when you need the labor, you let me know, and we'll organize some folks to come help out, and we appreciate you.
We do have a lead on some college students now that it's summer that would be interested in working cheap. So it's just to avoid the fast food syndrome, and especially in a game paradise like this. So we'll see what happens. We might put together a team soon.
Well, that's great, Frank, and we appreciate you thinking of us, and we would do it proud and make sure that the games are displayed and not only displayed but played every year at Page as part of the game library. I think that would be would be very important.
You should know by now that you're going to have to throw me out to get rid of me, because I happened to wander into this setup not knowing what was going on at Page 1. And it was so exceptionally well run. And here, again, I got to point at the volunteers. Yes, you did a nice job organizing, planning, and all that. Somebody's got to do that stuff. But it was whether or not your volunteers mesh, whether things get caught and handled before it even gets to Ron's level, up there in the corner. Hey, that works. I just point like that. All right. The team just did extremely well, better than I normally see, and that had me going, "What? Well, wait a minute. There's something hot is happening here." And I started talking about online. You grew very nicely by page two, and then you hit me with a lifetime achievement award. So, which I appreciate very much, and it's on the wall of my living room. Every guest sees it. So I'll be promoting Paige and coming back as long as I last, and as long as you don't throw me out.
I don't foresee us throwing you out. We were happy.
We'll see. Depends how mad you get at me. I can piss people off. We'll see.
Well, we listen. I deal with a lot of people on a daily basis in my job as a labor organized labor person, and not all of them are people I necessarily like to deal with. So you're a soft touch compared to some of the people I deal with regularly.
Well,
Well,
hey, you submitted.
all of my rage kind of got drained off over the last couple of years between a divorce and recovering from that, and then the health issues. No, I'm just Mr. Positive thinking all the time these days. I don't have any more bones to pick, rage to throw, or any of that. No, it's much more mellow living like this, also, without being mad at so much stuff.
It sounds like you got your medical marijuana card. That's what this is sounding like.
Really? No. I happen. I do not have a medical pot card, and I am a card carrying member of a local gun club, and have my Wisconsin concealed license. It's strictly for. I don't even take it out in public generally, and it's just a simple handgun plus maybe a backup.
Tell us, is it under the hat or in the
With-
beard? Is that
With
where it's
the value
concealed?
of the game stuff alone that I have floating around the house, yes, I have a good guard dog to alert me, and so I'm prepared if somebody causes trouble. It's as simple as that. But the way the feds and the states don't have it worked out yet, no, the pot is not in the schedule for me. I can't get the card, etc. You can get a medical marijuana card real easy, and I do have my handicap blue thing for the car. I get the good parking spots, but can't get the government to let me buy pot. So at least not, and continue my amendment right to carry firearms.
I understand.
So that's where I stand on that.
Now, Frank, sticking to the board games, we'd love to have you on. Our own Becca Swesney runs a every other week live stream on Tuesday afternoons late, like at 6:30 in the afternoon. That's all about board gaming. It's all about board gaming in our board game library. What Kickstarters she's backing, what new things we've added to the board game library. We'd love to schedule you at some point in the near future to be on. The show's called Around the Board with Bex. We'd love to have you on there.
Possibly with one caveat. My roots are with games from Charles Roberts of the 50s and 60s at the very foundation of this entire board game hobby. I think the breakthrough came when America discovered Euro games and their physical quality as well as their mechanics and the details of how you play these games. There's a lot of breakthroughs in the Euro game line.
Well,
I certainly have my favorites here and there around the whole mess. But I am woefully unequipped to talk about any current Kickstarters, modern games, really.
Talking about some of our history
right.
would be cool. Also, Bex has occasionally talked about the idea of maybe doing a walkthrough with somebody of like a game, showing how to play. That could be, maybe she could, sit down with you and discuss a game.
I also think that talking about the history of board games and how they've evolved, and you just touched upon something about how Euro games hit the scene, even having a discussion about how important somebody like Darwin Bromley was to bringing Euro games to the U.S. and getting them getting the rules translated into English. I mean, I was one of the people that used to import, trade with people in Germany specifically, and I would have to find somebody to translate the rules for me.
Well, I'm going to grab a minute to praise a guy most people have never heard of. His name is Jay Tummelson.
He's with Rio Grande Games now.
Yeah. He had a background in military, and he was stationed in Germany. And he started running into these fabulous quality Euro games, all in German. And he started a company, basically himself, personally translating the things. And bringing, and this was the crucial part, bringing physical quality of Euro games to the U.S. Now, yes, Darwin was right in there pitching along with us, but I would really have to give Jay huge credit for really spearheading the bringing them in. I think, I think Mayfair may have picked it up just after him or just before him. It was a close thing. It could have been either way. And, of course, Darwin accumulated one of the greatest game libraries in the world. Much of which ended up with the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, donated or purchased, depending on the value of the individual items. That's the kind of a museum where they also have the original oilcloth prototype of Monopoly that Darrow made personally back in the 30s. So they have all the prime stuff, the best stuff.
Hey, I have a Euro game anecdote to share with you guys, if you don't mind. When Wizards of the Coast picked up TSR back in the 90s and we moved out there, Wizards was already starting to send people to various European conventions to learn about games over there. And they would bring stuff back, and we would have game days twice a year where we'd all try out these different games that nobody in the US had ever heard of. I remember one of my first was Euphrates and Tigris, or Tigris and Euphrates, as it eventually got changed over here. And so, yeah, we had those printouts of the rules and things like that. But one of the things we did around 96, 97, so keep that year in mind, was a survey about board games in the US versus board games in Europe, or specifically Germany. And one of the questions that always stuck out for me, I've never forgotten this, was in the life of a game, like a game is produced, and let's assume it gets to a consumer. So this is not a game that's sitting in a warehouse or gets destroyed or lost, a game that gets to a consumer. If an American board game gets to a consumer, how many times in its lifetime is it played from the time the consumer has it to the time it's worn out or thrown away or passed on to another consumer? Do you have any idea, and this is back in 96, what the answer to that question was? Anybody want to take a shot?
8 times.
You're saying 8 times? Anybody else have one? It was 0.75. So there were 25% basically didn't get played at all, if you think about it that way. And many of them only got played, 1 or 2 times, something like that. It was 0.75. Now in Germany, a board game that reached a consumer, what do you think the number was for that?
Yeah, more like my 8, I think there, yeah.
Yeah, very, very close. It was 75 times. And the number one reason a board game in Germany basically got retired was because it got worn out. Too many pieces got lost or whatever. So that's why even back then, the Euro games were being made with wood, with solid pieces. The rules were often written in such a way that the rules were all there on the board. Like, I don't know if you remember, well, of course you remember playing a lot of these games where everything is very icon driven, because that way they had very little things they had to translate, and so Wizards of the Coast, and I know Darwin Bromley as well, and a few of those other people who were bringing stuff in, started learning from that. And that's kind of where the sort of evolution of games in the US started up, or not started, but sort of revived, because way back when they used to have the old bookcase games like Acquire and some of those other games that were in depth, those were games that were made to be solid. But then somewhere around like the 70s or 80s, it was all about cheap and toy value. You wanted to sell a game for like $10 and you wanted it to be flashy, but you didn't care if it was any good. Like nobody was playing Mousetrap for the game. They liked setting up the little traps, and if it broke after a couple of uses, whatever, it was only $12.
Oh, we added on to Mousetrap with jury rigged this and that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Anybody into stuff, as long as we're on board game kick, everybody enjoys Civilization. Of course, it's become one of the all-time classics. The computer version is ubiquitous and is up to what, Civ 6 at least now?
Yeah, something like that.
And it's almost impossible to win at Civ 6. Believe me, I've tried. But Civilization was originally created by a little micro company in Britain called Heartland Trefoil. And the guy who invented that game, in the process, invented the escalating hex game mechanic, where you start with the hex board and it's got like terrain or whatever, and then you play a hex on top of that to improve, buildings, rail, whatever. It's spread out to rail games, Civilization, various other games. Well, all of that was invented by this one guy. And we used to play Civilization in the original board game form from Heartland Trefoil back in 1982, I think, 83. Me and Mike Gray, who was the mind behind all the Game Master stuff from Milton Bradley. We had him on loan at TSR for a couple of years, and then he went back to MV. But he and I and others, we would play Civilization and other games by this Heartland Trefoil company. So if you see any Heartland Trefoil stuff, there are a number of them out there. They are obscure. People don't generally know of them, but they always play just fabulous. And they're from the creator, the original guy for the hex mechanic, and you can see what else he did with it. So just a little plug in passing. I don't get anything out of it. It's just what I get. Trying new games that are worth trying.
Well, that's awesome.
We have Ed,
sorry.
Real quick. Hey, we have some questions coming into the chat for Frank, and I don't want these to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, Gus. Hello, fans. Thank you for coming. You got questions? What do we got?
Yes. Don Borer asks, out of all the classic modules you've worked with, whether Basic, Expert, ECM, BECME, First Edition, etc., was there one you especially enjoyed running? And did you ever have a favorite dungeon master back in the day?
There was a pharmacist in northern Indiana named Bob Blake who wandered into the Gen Con setup fairly early as a volunteer and proceeded to write and run several years of the AD&D Open. As soon as there was an AD&D, there was Bob running the mega tournament at Gen Con. A lot of his work was good enough to be published also through Judges Guild during that time. He was probably certainly one of the best game masters I have ever seen work. Just brought it all together perfectly. He was the runner-up in the 1980 Game Master competition that I won by only a couple of points. I just squeaked it out ahead of him. Len Lakofka, the late Len Lakofka, was a notable plus, a fabulous game master in his day. Jim Ward was always entertaining. A module that I've loved running, especially, well, leaving out all of mine, and there are more than a dozen out there of my modules over the decades. The one from another author that I enjoyed the most is probably, well, it's a real toughie. I didn't know this was coming. I don't often run adventures other than mine. You see, that makes it go a lot faster. I don't need as many notes. Everybody has a much better time. So I really have to drag back through. Janelle Jacquet's, probably the tower from Judges Guild back in the 70s. It's
I
really
had a,
one of
I
the
had a feeling
absolute
you were going to mention her.
classic modules. It's got everything in there, and before almost anybody else did this stuff, she was the first to put it in print. At the time, it was Paul Jacquet's, and I knew Paul quite well. And we got together down in Texas and one time, and he asked me and Tim Cass, old friends, to go out to lunch and talk about serious stuff. And we noticed that he let his hair grow quite a bit longer, and he wasn't nearly the religious extremist, shall we say, that he used to be. And it was during that get together in Texas, during a North Texas con, that he explained his plan to become Janelle, and wanted to see what we thought of it. And we were behind our old friend 100%. You do what you feel you want to do, you need to do to be happy, and go for it. Sure, there was a lot of controversy over that over the years, and we lost Janelle since then. But she was just absolutely astounding for the creativity, both as a graphic artist and as a writer. And combine those, and you can go anywhere you like in the game industry, role playing industry. Hope that answers the question, Don.
It makes me wish I had lived during that time, so I could have met some of these people in person. You said that you've written several modules, but I'm wondering, do you play in any games currently?
No, I've been about 3 years ago. I ended my campaign, which I had been running online since 1992. We ran for 29 years, had a couple of hundred different players come and go, and there was a core group of 4 who made it through the whole thing from the very first year of play all the way to the end. It was always in a chat room. It was always theater of the mind with maps sent out and that sort of thing. Yeah, I've run quite a few games. In the course of running a campaign like that, you get all these ideas, and everybody has to be somewhere. The characters have to be running around somewhere that's logical, makes both ecological sense, political, all the different aspects. So it grew into this full continent that fully developed. I guess, in a nutshell, the notable capsule summary of that campaign in this continent is that, and this is approved by Gary Gygax, by the way, although since he sold the trademarks and rights and all that, we can't say this in print, but I can say it online. In module R4 from RPGA TSR 1983, in the preface, it explains that settlers from Greyhawk, or the continent of Erid, which is where Greyhawk is, came east across the Solnor Ocean to colonize this wonderful new continent that they had discovered way off to the east, thousands of miles away. The humans arrived and were promptly told, go away. The natives managed to hang in there and fight the humans to a standstill until the natives, who were the original demi-human kind, who came to Greyhawk and all that from this continent, the elves, the dwarves, the hobbits, not so much the hobbits, they're so peace-loving, but the dwarves and the elves certainly put up a big enough fight, and eventually the compromise that they reached was that the humans got the river valleys, which was great. The humans loved that. The elves kept their woods. The dwarves and gnomes just kept the under places, and it all worked out as long as they didn't go around attacking each other and play colonial conquest. So the whole campaign is founded on that premise. No, colonial beating races into submission is not the way it's done. We talk to folks. Yes, if they're evil monsters, you kill them and steal their stuff and laugh and run. But if they're stupid enough to attack you, okay, such as it goes. But there's definitely a tilt away from the old kill everything that moves and steal everything they got attitude. And being a real old style campaign coming right from the 70s, this surprises some people that it evolved in this direction. But this was the way the campaign was as early as the 80s when I was running it for the TSR notable. And I like to think I helped influence TSR and maybe the modern market in the process of pushing sensitivity in that direction, and a little less just hack and slash, and a little more story. Now, of course, I think my friend Tracy Hickman may have taken the whole story emphasis a little too far, maybe. But Dragonlance and Ravenloft, of course, is classic archetype for that. So he had his successes for sure. I prefer more of a blend of story and action and a viable environment and all the various factors to make it realistic across the board. Once you accept the realism of dragons and things like that, and I can give you a whole ecological rationale for it. So in my campaign, sure, this is all entirely logical. So that's the way I've gone with all this stuff.
Wow.
45 years.
So a few other comments from in the chat. George Hardy, it's amazing. Frank still blows your mind with all he knows.
Yeah. Hi, George. Thank you for dropping by.
Yeah.
George is one of the mega fans who is always in there commenting and applauding the posts I make and things like that. Thanks again.
Don Boer says, thanks for sharing your time with us.
Happy to.
Devin the Dam says 29 years. That's a legendary campaign.
Yeah. One of the projects that my new company, and I'll mention the name again for any latecomers, Temporal Studios Incorporated. Website is up, but there's nothing there yet. But feel free to go by, drop us your name and contact info so we can put you on a mailing list. One of the projects we have is dealing with my game logs. This having been a chat room game during its entire life, all 29 years. In the project, what we want to do is first take the chat room logs and clean them up. I mean, what your home games are like. You're talking about the Knicks or here, have a Pepsi or whatever extraneous chat. Well, the same sort of thing goes by in a chat room game to some extent. So there's editing a lot of that out. Boiling it down to the action storylines. I'll mention that anybody on my friends list on Facebook, I'm currently posting a whole string of a dozen or more adventures summarized from the chat logs that lead up to the fall of the capital city of the humans and the story of the rest of the campaign. So keep an eye out for those and drop by my page to read those chat logs, which will be published later. But once we get all these chat logs boiled down, it's really a two-part project, because the one most people will want to buy and read will be the summary of boiling it all down and none of the extraneous stuff, and it just gallops right along with my core storylines and the ups and downs and all the thrills and chills and all that sort of thing. And then as a supplement, probably for the hardcores, will be the full, cleaned up but not much trimmed out game log of 29 years, just so we have this artifact. I don't know of anybody else who has a record of 29 years of D&D games.
It's crazy,
Another one of those weird Frank things that happened along the way.
It was interesting, from 1999 through 2002, I was working in China. There's nobody around playing D&D, but I wrote notebooks full of adventure ideas, encounter areas, NPCs. I filled the margins of the pages with lists, like names and ideas and things like this. And I'm still drawing from that. I'm not even 40% through the things I wrote when I was in China.
The problem, pragmatic problem I've run into, there's such a wealth of material there in the whole of Asian mythology and literature. China, Japan, don't discount Burma, I still think of it as,
Sure.
and the Lower Peninsula, all the way down through Jakarta and Indonesia. Oh, just a wealth of stuff. And the southern end of that, of course, gets into the maritime beliefs and myths and things like that. It's just, it's just huge. But the problem I've run into in trying to present that to Western audiences is that people just don't identify with it the way that Asian audiences do. You can capture part of it, but a couple of times I've attempted and been forced, just for pragmatic means, for a tournament or something, been forced to really corrupt slightly the Asian original to make it palatable and playable both, and put those factors together. Once again, for North American audiences, it's much easier to flies much better when I'm in Italy or Finland or other European countries.
Right. Getting back to the chat, we've got Scott McGregor. He says, "See you at EggCon, Frank." And Scott, you'll see me at EggCon too, but my feelings aren't hurt whatsoever. We've got Chet Minton, the artist.
Mr. McGregor also mentioned my doing the music for Dragonlance, and that does illustrate one point that he brings up. You look around through the TSR through the 80s, and you start finding my name showing up in all kinds of stuff that you didn't realize, and also as author of products that you didn't realize, like 2001: Space Odyssey. A lot of people never realized I wrote science fiction role-playing as well. When Tracy hit the scene and just set records with his development and then working with Margaret on the Dragonlance thing, it turned out in chatting around the offices that we were both musicians. And I suggested we put together a garage band. So it was Tracy on keyboards, me on lead guitar, Clyde Caldwell on rhythm guitar. Clyde started it. He wanted to play lead, and then he heard me play, and he backed off to rhythm real fast. Both Tracy and I did vocals. The legendary Keith Parkinson, the cover artist for TSR, the late Keith Parkinson, turned out, lo and behold, to be a killer trap set rock drummer with a double bass drum set up and everything. So he set that up, and we set up all this equipment in one of the unused rooms in this new mega building that TSR had. And we got together and jammed a couple of times. Only a select few TSR people heard it and came by and watched it. So they were the only witnesses, and we certainly didn't record any of it. But yeah, fun times in the old TSR. But in conjunction with that, Tracy said, look, I am so busy that I don't have time to do music for Dragonlance. I'm too busy creating the whole thing. Can you do something? And I'll look at it and see whether it'll work. And as it turned out, it did work out. And I've got, I think, 4 different pieces in 4 of the first 8 Dragonlance modules. The glitch that we hit right away was the TSR's in-house typesetters could not handle typesetting sheet music. That's not what they did. They did words on a page, art in between the words, that's that. So the first couple of songs are a little screwed up in the layout. They farmed it out after that, so the later ones are okay. But that was a lot of fun doing the music for both the Garage Band and then the music for Dragonlance. I discovered to my somewhat to my dismay that later some people liked the Dragonlance music so much they recorded it by electronic, by live, by other means, and so you can find my various songs all over YouTube from my various artists. Another lurking corner of Mentzer output there.
Well, very, very, very neat, Frank. Brian Keena says, my first convention was Page, and my first convention game ever was Frank's back to 1974.
Oh, cool.
Just a great experience and loads of fun. We have more here.
Yeah, I do rip you away from your standard ho-hum convention game and take away most of the classes, most of the everythings. I give you level 2 characters so you'll survive, probably, depending on how foolish you get. And then I have 4 different dungeon layouts and 1 outdoor that I rotate and use for that. That was another question that came up. If I played it before, are we doing the same thing again? Well, no, not quite. So I can promise you something different, but that's all I'll say about it.
All right. So Dan Shea from Philadelphia says, if I ever build a time machine, I know where and when I'm headed.
The 70s at TSR were an amazing time. I'm a late bloomer, latecomer. I didn't arrive until 1980. But when I did arrive, the company had so many relatives, I'll put it that way, so many of the Bloom family and the Gygax family, all of whom were working hard and doing a good job, but they were not professionals hired to do professional writing, editing, finance work, things like that. So eventually TSR evolved into professionals across the board on those aspects, and it made it all the much better. But since it was basically a bunch of talented amateurs trying hard, I apparently worked my way up through the stack and became an influential figure at the core of TSR within 3 years of my arrival. So not too bad.
The Don Borer asks, I've heard rumors that Mystara, or quote, the known world, was once considered to be the other side of Orth. Any truth to that, Frank? Or just one of those TSR what ifs?
Yeah, that's more of a what if, but one of the important points buried in there is that you have the publisher's point of view and the author's point of view, okay, for all topics like this. And the Greyhawk was Gary's creation, and he did not really influence the known world or Mystara much at all. I just reached back to a primeval Earth. If you look at the map, and I think it's the Master set inside the cover, is just the continents all squished together. It's an early version of Earth. And then we simply assign different cultural archetypes to different parts of that area so that you could expand the campaign out in whichever flavor suited you the most.
By the 90s, we had all kinds of legends about what was on the other side of which planet, or what world Dark Sun was the future of, things like that. So
now my campaign world, I decided to put on SETI Alpha 4 as part of our real universe. The time frame is in our not that distant future, just within a century, or I'm sorry, within 1,000 years from now. So all this magic is going on, and Greyhawk and all that out in the SETI constellation of the Whale, and around, yes, as it happens, I picked that before the Star Trek Con movie came out with Star Trek. This is SETI Alpha 4 or 5 or whatever. No. So it's interesting that my ideas created that. I picked SETI and Tau SETI in particular because of its proximity to Earth. It's within 10 light years. So that makes it in our local neighborhood and potentially something that could be visited. So that's the way I go, even with my fantasy. I kind of mix science fiction and fantasy, reality, and everything all together because it has to be coherent. When you produce a campaign or something like this, if it's not coherent, if it's not logical throughout, it's not going to keep, it's not going to last that long.
All right. We have a few additional questions and comments in the...
Give me just 5 seconds.
Yeah.
My dog was getting upset at being locked out. So.
Oh, no worries. Professional RPG artist Chet Mitten says, Frank, who is your favorite TSR artist, and who is your second favorite current artist after Chet Mitten?
I think Chet does a fabulous job. I've looked at a lot of his stuff. Wish I could afford some of it, but I know we'll talk about that later. Then I may want a custom piece from you, Chip. Maybe a caricature of me or something like that. The artist I worked most with and the most closely, best personal friends, not only him and his wife and kids, because they only lived, I think, 2.5, 3 blocks from me in Lake Geneva during the 80s. And of course, that's Larry Elmore, his wife Betty, and so forth. So I have to go with him as a favorite artist person, just as a personal friend, as well as the quality of his work. That said, there is a simplicity, perhaps an oversimplicity of a lot of Larry's work in cartoonish, if you will, to get the point across to not distract you. You see a lot of outstanding, we call them filler as toss-up word in the business, but within my Red Box, for example, his classic illustrations of a fighter approaching the doorway to the dungeon, things like this, just set the stage so perfectly. And they're not complex. They are not color Dragonlance covers or anything like that, but they're just perfect for their time. And then, of course, you get into his archetype of the 5. I just hit it out of the park here. They gave me Larry Bloody Elmore to do 5 box sets, do my covers. So, I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. Easley is fabulous, and we're personal friends, and he was a member of my church in Lake Geneva there for a little while. Or I was a member of his church, however you want to put it. I moved away. But, and I like his work. I've always liked, in the simpler vein, going backwards from Larry, Errol Otis and Jeff D have been my favorites. I like Willingham. Don't get mad at me, Bill, but I like the other guys a little better. And in the just perfect renditions of reality of the modern artists, people like Boris Vallejo, et cetera, who I got to meet once. And just the breakthrough stuff that these people like Boris and Larry and Keith Parkinson and Jeff Easley established standards thanks to malls, Walden Books, B. Dalton, things like that. TSR produced this huge line of fantasy novels, and you get one, and there's this killer art on the thing, and you're going, oh my gosh. And the big companies in New York look at that stuff and they go, oh my gosh, so they start paying more. They start tilting their preferences, talking to the art they're commissioning. At TSR, we influenced New York and LA and everybody in their style of art and choices of topics, all sorts of things. But you look at Larry, again, you look at Larry's versatility from the simplest cartoonish drawings, filler art, all the way on up to the best cover art for box sets, for paperbacks, hardcovers, the works. It's I have to go with Larry as one of the all-time best ever in our business. I do hope to get down. He and I are both getting older and developing our share of issues. So I've talked to my handlers, my partners, and we're going to try and get down to Kentucky and visit Larry sometime within the next few months, possibly before this fall, and have at least one last get together and with the old days. But I still won't go for a ride with him. He's too much of a madman when he gets into a machine, car, motorcycle, whatever. Nope. I'm a little too fragile now, old friend. We're going to have to put that one off. So I have done it before, yes, and that's why I'm not getting into one again. And I'm the guy who took a Porsche up to 170 on a Nevada Dove.
So we have a few other questions here before we let you go, a few other questions and comments. Scott McGregor says, I remember listening to Frank as auctioneer at maybe 20 Gen Cons. He knew everything about every item that came up. He's an encyclopedia of gaming knowledge.
Well, thank you. I try. The odd part that comes up at the auctions is that you could ask me about and name a game by anybody, Milton Bradley, SPI, Avalon Hill, TSR, name a game that I played, I'm familiar with, and ask me about it, and I made blank on it completely. But if you put one in front of me, bang, I'm off. Chapter and verse, details of what else the designer did, in his career, whether this is a first printing or not, this particular one you handed me, some of the characteristics of play, details of the mechanics, how that stacks up in the play mechanics, about better or worse than comparable games, including I mean, I'm just off and running on all this stuff, but I gotta have it in front of me. It's a visual kick-in.
Okay. The Jenn,
Yes.
you've been waiting patiently. I could see you chomping at the bit to ask Frank another question.
Oh, I've got several.
Go ahead. Shoot.
Okay. So if you could go back and change one rule or mechanic from the red box, what would it be and why?
Well, there's more than one, because in doing Redbox, when Gary asked me to do Redbox, he kind of asked me rather than told me. Everybody else had said they weren't interested, for one thing, even Zeb Cook. The big money in royalties was in AD&D, especially hardbacks. So people were lined up to do advanced D&D stuff. And Dragonlance was rocking along, a variety of things, Dark Sun kicking it. So nobody was interested in doing the original D&D line. Can you rephrase your question just real briefly?
Sure.
Sorry.
Sure. So if you could change or
Change one thing. Yeah.
one one mechanic
So
or rule.
So much of the rule setup of the race as class, for example, was a given because that's the way the original game was in '74. This has to be absolutely true to that. We can elaborate on that, and I think I elaborated quite a bit and filled in the gaps on how you actually build and run a whole campaign and things like that. And what are these weapons good for anyway? Well, I answered that in Master Set. But I would say the one rule that I would, if I had been permitted to, I would include a note in the preface saying we have changed one rule from the original edition for everyone's enjoyment because we've learned that much over the last decade. You don't have to play race as class. You can combine what skills or talents or profession you like along with whatever racial aspects you like for whatever racial skills you like, the perks that the dwarves get versus the elves or whatever. But if you were to open it up that way, number one, it would have been, of course, more freedom, more easily customized to your taste as a game. But number two, as a side effect, it would have attracted far more AD&D players. Those who were a little bit tired of Gary's focus on wargame stuff, of elaborate pole arms, and all this, the various little pet things that Gary followed. Because if you look at history, Gary didn't really tune in to role playing, I feel, until the late 80s into the 90s. That late. Look at his last creation, Legendary Adventure, and it's wonderful. It plays like a dream, etc. Unfortunately, before that, the one right before that was Dangerous Journeys, which is just a rule-bound monster. It's almost impossible to fully learn. Play takes forever. Everything drags so much. It takes AD&D and takes it to its really worst extremes, a lot of people felt. So Gary didn't really tune into the role-playing side and the benefits of that. And the additional proof of that, of course, is that you look at the original set, 1974, and its rules for medieval wargaming with miniature figures. It doesn't say a word about playing roles. In the rules, it doesn't mention this, the role-playing. And we have discovered over 50 years that the role-playing is the really unique breakthrough aspect of this whole project, Dungeons and Dragons leading to everything else. Science fiction variations, all the other genres, etc. It's just a wonderful trope. And every single one of them emphasizes one core philosophical point, if you will. We accomplish more working together in cooperation than we do individually competing. We've had individual competitions since the beginning of gaming, chess, checkers, and everything since is either individuals or teams. Somebody wins, somebody loses. And in role playing for the first time in human history, and I do not underestimate this, folks, for the first time in human history, we have a codified means of getting together, having fun, and all cooperating instead of competing against each other. Now, that's kind of deep stuff, but this is one of the key points that I've synthesized really over the last decade. It's
Yeah,
the
that's very
importance of
true.
role-playing.
A lot of people ask me who don't understand D&D, "Oh, you played D&D, did you win?"
Yeah. Right.
No, we didn't win. We just had a good time.
As a weird side comment, I
We
got
always
into
win.
D&D and I did win. I won the title of #1 Dungeon Master in 1980. I became Gary's #1 right-hand man at TSR. And in 1984, when he was busy with business stuff, he sent a memo to all concerned saying, for all topics, Dungeons & Dragons or Advanced D&D, go to Frank. I'm busy. So I guess I won.
Yeah, I guess you did. So can you tell me a little bit about what you think of D&D now, like specifically 5e and how it's changed since like the old days?
I thought 3 was very gutsy. They started a lot of stuff that they had never gone there before. So of course they had a lot of screw ups. Hey, the designers.
Wait, are you saying third edition had a lot of screw ups? I just want to get you. Are you saying it had a lot of screw ups?
So infamous for this, of course, that we now just refer to 3.5, and almost nobody plays 3 because it had to work itself off to 3.5 before they fixed those glitches. Well, we know about 4. Your opinion of 4, at least. My opinion of 4 is that it is a dynamite, fast-playing, easily referenced, just rocks right along, miniatures fantasy war game. It's not D&D. It's based on D&D. Okay, and that's my 2 bits. Try it sometime if you don't think it is a good write-up and a good game. You can find any rule in the book, just a breeze. And the organization, the rules themselves. Anyhow, in 5th edition, they knew going into it they had to get over 4. Okay, that was #1. There are a lot of good things from 3.3.5 that they wanted to keep. But they needed to, and part of this was discussed in-house, they needed to recapture the first timers, that thrill of easy, faster play. The last time I played in the game of 3.5, we spent 3.5 hours and we killed 5 orcs. That was the evening. There. You can do so much more with 5 now. It got retailored to just everything works hugely better. Now, I've, of course, hobnobbed with various designers at Wizards over the years. Congratulated Jeremy when he was finally allowed to get married by the state he lived in. Anyway, well, I'm not much in touch with them these days, but I applaud what they did with 5 and wish them the best heading in the future.
Yeah. Listen, I have a last question for you, and then we're going to ask you to do us a favor for our Frog God Games giveaway tonight. But you asked a question the other day, and it was specific to, we have so many guests. How are we juggling all of these guests?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, we specifically brought Ed Stark on to help manage the guests because we think the guests are important, whether they're a Frank Mentzer or they're somebody who's like Jenn, who has a very promising YouTube channel, right? But everybody's contributing to the fabric of the industry. We're happy to label them as guests and bring them in. But going into some of the guests that we have this year, and I'm going to throw some names out there because you know who the guests have been in the past. Obviously we added Zeb last year. That was a big deal. But this year we've added some names: Alan Hammock, Kevin Ciambieta from Palladium Books,
Founder level there.
So who of the new guests we're bringing in this year? Matt Forsbeck.
Yeah, Matt Forbeck has gotten very big in the Marvel universe. He lives here in Beloit, right near me.
Oh, okay. Who of that group are you going to be most interested in chatting with at the cheesesteak dinner on Thursday night?
Well, I always like getting together with Zeb. I have told him and others repeatedly that I firmly believe, somebody forced me in the corner and asked me once, Zeb Cook, David Zeb Cook, is the best designer ever to walk through the doors of TSR. Versatile, he could tackle Wild West science fiction. He could blaze all new ground and do a whole new game. And all of this really was an executive request. Hey, Zeb, we need this. Can you do that? Oh, sure. Note my respect. I gave him a hat tip when it came to the expert set in the Beckme line, when I saw absolutely no reason to write an outdoor adventure. Zeb's Isle of Dread was a classic, and I could improve on it if I really worked at it. But I would have had to spend the time, and I would strongly prefer to go with Zeb. So that was one of the things. It's going to be great to see Eric Mona, an old friend. I understand he's coming in, not one of the more high profile anymore. He's a top exec there at Paizo, but has moved to his own home in Minnesota, his own stomping ground. So more power to him following his life's choices. But we don't get to chat anymore. And many times over, the time that he invited me out to PaizoCon, he just had to take me out for a ride in his hot car and so forth. I don't know what. Larry does that. He does that. And I don't know what it is. People with me in hot cars. And they heard the story about me in the Porsche. Anyway, it'll be great to see Eric again and chat with him. I never get the time to chat with my friends from Frog God. I never really see Bill Webb anymore, although I run into the other folks on occasion. And so it'll be nice. One of the things about the growth of Page here becoming really, you're going to have to face it, the principal East Coast gaming con. And that's already 3 years in. Just hang on. Within a couple of years, you're going to be effectively Gen Con East, but without that brand. So hang on, and best of luck for the ride. But many of the guests there, Alan, you mentioned the old TSR crew. It's always great to get together with them. You have so many great guests, and I'm sure they will all be having their spotlight, and very importantly, given their time off where they can go and chill and not be mobbed and whatever. But for the fans, given the fans time for autographs and photos, Page has always been a really good place to get photos as well as autographs. You've had special setups for this, and a lot of fans really appreciate it, and line up. I deal with lines all the time that most folks don't. Most fans are more sane. But
and speaking of that,
that's one side of the con that has turned out extremely well.
Do you follow any of the YouTubers of today?
I try to catch little bits on occasion, but I never really had that much time. And there's so much great stuff out there. I've run into this repeatedly that I would have to devote a lot of time to develop a comparative opinion. Yeah, I like that one, but not so much that one. And just getting that far in the discussion requires hours and hours, during a week of boiling it.
Yeah, I feel like at Page we have not only some of the great founders and pioneers of the industry and icons of the industry from over the years, but in terms of YouTubers, we'll call them. I mean, they're more than that, obviously. Having people like Professor Dungeon Master and Bob World Builder there, Stephen Glicker, Mike Shea, who absolutely turns out tremendous product.
Yeah.
I feel I feel like we really have the best of both worlds. Now, Frank, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We have a $25 Frog God Games website coupon to give away, and I would like you to ask a Frank Mentzer related trivia question to our audience, and the first person who gets the correct answer and puts it into the chat will get a $25 credit to Frog God Games online store, and then we're going to let you go because it's getting tight to the to your pumpkin hour, as I like to call it.
Okay. Most nights before my treatments for my blood, I get up for that at 5 a.m. every time. So most nights before that, I'm in bed and falling asleep by 9:30 at work. However, we're on a Friday night here going into a weekend, so I got plenty of time. I'm sorry, I got distracted with that part of the question. Could you once again repeat yourself? Am I getting old and senile?
I'd like you to ask, I would like to ask a Frank trivia, a Frank related trivia question.
Sure.
And
if you follow me on my Facebook page, the trivia question, the full question is this. When I am performing in front of a large audience at the White House, at the Executive Mansion in Washington, D.C. in the early 70s, am I playing a 6-string or 12-string? And by what manufacturer? Although I'll take just the string thing because you can find that out from my webpage. The manufacturer name, maybe not so much, but I think it shows though. Anybody answer that one? Just a simple.
Well, let's see who we get in the chat.
White House Gardens. Frank trivia. Too obscure for the small remaining audience,
huh? Scott McGregor says a 12-string Ibanez.
Okay. Sorry there, but that's a minus on both, Scott.
James Iriachi, a PhD in music, by the way, who plays in some of my home games, says a 6-string.
6-string it is. Do you have a good guess for the manufacturer? Remembering I'm at the top of the performance heap here playing the White House. So what type of guitar do you think I took to the White House? 6-string is correct, though, absolutely. And bronze strings is what I preferred during that era. I've evolved into more of a steel string guy, that or nylons.
Let's see what James has to say. James is going to see if he can come up with...
James knows. He just might not be willing to stick his neck out on the gamble. My sister has a master's. She got her bachelor's from Juilliard quite a while back, and she's an instructor in vocal arts at San Francisco Conservatory of Music these days. So, Dr. Israel, Dr. James, my sister would be happy to chat music with you anytime. Anyhow, just to wrap that up before it gets to somebody says Fender or Takamine. That's a nice try. It was the classic high-end Martin. I had matching 6-string and 12-string during that era, and I toured doing folk music sing-alongs at various national parks. Unfortunately,
so
during
fun.
the poverty period in the later 70s, I had to sell both those puppies, but they go for around a 10 to 15,000 each these days. The Martins that I had. Oh well.
Okay, so James is the winner of our $25 Frog God Games gift card, and I'm going to. We have a few closing comments here directed at Frank. One is you've always been available, Frank, and you walked around and you sat down and talked with people. It is noticed and well appreciated, and that's from Troy Allman from Cannibal Publishing. I second
strongly
that.
feel that most guests should be doing this. They're incurring minimal expense. You're probably putting them up with rooms at the very least, and in some cases flying us in, or covering the car costs when folks are carpooling in. And this year, I'll bet you get a lot of that.
The key word there is in some cases.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just in certain rare cases. No, it's a young con. You got to watch your budget and all that.
That's right. So we do what we can for our guests, and we look at every situation on its own merits when making those decisions. But Frank, thank you for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
Can I ask one last question?
Sure.
Okay. I was wondering what you think of Stranger Things and the fact that the red box was used in the opening scene, the very first season.
Well, of course, it was a high compliment. And I was in touch with the Duffer Brothers later, discussing the possibility. It never really got any further than a maybe. But just blue skying it of having me on as a game store manager or owner, just a little cameo role, hiding very briefly, and just have some of the fans just, lose it seeing this go by.
Little Easter egg.
But yeah, it would have been hopping down to Georgia and various things. Anyhow, that never happened. As it turned out, their award-winning head of makeup, Amy, was a fan of mine there for a while. I'm not sure if she still is. We're not in touch. But so we actually met a couple times, talked things a bit. And so it was moving towards getting me onto Stranger Things there. I did follow the first two seasons a lot. I liked what Winona Ryder did with not the young chickie anymore, with a more serious role and, of course, in a fantasy theme, that clicked right, all my buttons right there. But I've lost touch with it in the last couple of years, in part because of my illness.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah,
to be on Stranger Things.
Things that could have been.
I was going to ask before you told me you were in touch with them, asking about making a cameo. I was going to ask, did you get any kind of royalties check when the product appeared in the program? But I guess I know the answer to that already.
Yeah, the thing about the red box and my other work at TSR is there was a clear understanding between me and TSR in 1980 when I first started, or just a few months in. Brian Bloom, one of the founders of the company, came in and said, we need you to sign this shop rights agreement, basically. That all the stuff I write belongs to TSR, no arguments. And in exchange for a salary, healthcare, fabulous working environment, lots of opportunities, well, sure, hell yes, I signed, And
Sure.
I signed away some rights, et cetera, and possibly some money in the long run. But when you're just starting out on a rocket ship voyage like that, you don't know if you're going to get off the pad. You don't know if this is the latest pet rock, D&D, may have fizzled out, and whether you're the right man for the job. Too many unknowns. So I went with the flow, and so that was that. That's the way that went.
Right. Well, Frank, thank you for being with us tonight. We're gonna let you run, and we're gonna give our normal end of the show updates to people after our guests have been on. I'll see you next month.
Yep. And
we'll strive to bring you back to the program between now and before Page kicks off in January.
For my parting comment, I'll mention that I'm wearing a piece of the Woodstock stage here that is on a little thingy. Being a Woodstock veteran, I had to buy one when they had pieces of it available like that. And my other ornament here is the gold dragon on a chain that Grenadier Hobbies made, and which TSR awarded me in 1980 for becoming the #1 game master. Unfortunately, they both hide behind the beard these days, so we got to work out the logistics. Thank you all for coming, fans. Check out Paige. If you've been hearing a lot about it, if you were a Borderline, get off the fence. You've got to go to this con. It's killer.
Thanks, Frank. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
You too. Later.
All right. So that was quite the interview there, folks. I mean, learning about Frank's new company, we're gonna have to chop that piece of video up and make a short out of that, where he makes that announcement for sure.
I can't wait to see the logo.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we mentioned earlier when we had Frank do the trivia question, tonight's program is sponsored by Frog God Games. Those folks have been great to us. They've really been very supportive of our fledgling channel here, and we appreciate them. And we've got good news that they're going to be joined as a permanent sponsor by Troll Lord Games beginning on our next program. Which, programming note, we are not going to have a program on July 4th. So next week, no program. And then we'll be back on July 11th. So we're looking pretty good for guests, and look for a post that'll detail all the guests coming on the program in July. I can tell you that on, I believe, July 25th, we'll be live at EggCon, and we'll probably be joined by Bill and Ben Barsh from Pacesetter Games. Chet Minton will be skulking around there, and a few of our other guests as well. So never know what's going to happen there. And I'm going to pull up real quick. We'll just make a quick announcement on who these other guests are going to be for the rest of the month. Let's see. I have to pull it up on my computer, and I'm old and technology is hard. So let's see. Scrolling back. Here we go. No, not yet. All right. On July 11th, we're going to have Matt Shoemaker. He's an artist and RPG historian. He's also on our staff, so he'll be on there, and we're probably going to add a second guest to that show. On the 18th, we're going to be talking about dice. We're going to have Craig Zipsey from Black Oak Workshop, as well as dice experts Daniel Lawrence and Amanda Brasovsky on with us. So that'll be a fun program. And like I said, on July 25th, we'll be live at EggCon. We expect the Barshes, Chet Minton, and perhaps a few surprise guests. So, we like where we're going there. Our viewership is rising every week, and that's outstanding. I am concerned that, if Jenn keeps drinking multiple shots of vodka before the programs, that she may develop a problem. So we're going to have to, we might have to seek some intervention.
Oh, well, you don't have to worry about that, Ron, because I have my coffee and also polar water. So I think I'm all set.
Okay. All right. As long as you're not driving a car, we'll be okay.
Oh no, I can't drive a car. You want me to crash?
Well, yeah. little duplicitous joke there.
I know.
We I know Ed's chomping at the bit to make an announcement about something we finalized today for Page, but I think people are going to have to wait until July 11th, where we'll make that announcement live when we have Matt Shoemaker on, Ed.
That's fine with me. Do we have a new guest announcement, though? Usually every week you've got somebody you want to announce.
Well, I want to announce who we announced this week. You know, this week we announced Mark Hunt, who is the author and publisher of the new edition of Gangbusters that's out there. He's also worked on some DCC products and some science fiction products, a science fiction zine in the past. He's been around the gaming industry forever. Went from mega fan to, in the industry that, so many folks who are in the hobby dream of going there. And Mark has done it and been successful at it. And that's going to be great. Let's see who else we announced this week, Ed. We also announced, I guess I can go to the website to do this, huh? Special guests. I feel like Chuck Cumbo doing this. I'm talking to myself as I'm going through our pages.
Don't worry, Ron. I talk to myself all the time.
We also announced Alan Hammock this week, earlier in the week, and artist Lisa Ann Lake, who is near and dear to me. I've known her for 35 years, and what a wonderful person she is. As far as a guest we want to announce, I'm going to put a guest out there that hasn't been announced yet, and it's Chris Pramis from Green Ronin. Will be joining us at Page, which is very exciting. I'm very, very, very happy that's going to happen.
Yeah, I was really happy we were able to get that. I've worked with Chris twice in my career. We worked together at Wizards of the Coast, and then we worked at THQ Visual Games on Warhammer 40K Online. So it's going to be great to see Chris again.
All right. I don't think we have too much else to talk about other than, hey, if you want to get a gold badge, if you want to start selecting your games on July 1st, you got to go to the website at phillygamingexpo.com and either convert your existing badge to a gold badge or grab one of the few gold badges that are left. As of the last day in June at 11:59 Eastern Standard Time, the ability to get a gold badge will be turned off.
That is Monday, folks. Monday. The year is going fast.
Yeah.
I definitely encourage people, if you're on the fence about a gold badge, get one, because we're going to have some events that are only going to be available for gold badge holders. We have ones that are going to sell out quickly. We've got a lot of special stuff planned. So can
you give us a sneak peek of what that would be?
I think we're going to wait a little bit. But one thing I will say in general is we have our big cheesesteak dinner that we have on Thursday night, which is only open to guests, volunteers, and gold badge holders.
Whoa.
Wait a minute.
Time out.
I'm a gold badge holder.
Yeah, no.
Wait,
Ed,
sorry.
no. It's for guests, volunteers, and staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. But we have some gold badge events that we're going to be having Thursday night that will be exciting. Sorry about that, Ron. I keep doing that.
It's okay. I mean, listen, if they show up, I'll just have you pull out your gold card and for the extra 200 people coming to dinner.
Yeah.
that would be a little much. We can't do everything for everyone, but
That's
gold
true,
badge holders get all sorts of benefits. They get to choose their events first. They have exclusive games open to them at 7 p.m. Thursday, which aren't necessarily open to everybody else. They get T-shirt, they get a pin. They get
Probably other swag that we have not announced.
Yes. So gold badge holders, they get a very good hookup, and obviously getting to choose your events first is really important. So I've shared my screen here, and I'm not going to get too crazy. Okay, so made it a little bigger, but I think the key number is down here on the right. We have 600 plus events in the schedule, and we have more coming in every day.
Yep.
But, the folks that get to start selecting on July 1st, they get to start selecting from this, group of 600 plus events. And, yes, Brian, I did age a couple of years. Thanks, Ed.
That's what I'm here for. I guess it gives you a little adrenaline surge.
Uh,
Hey, can I, since it's actually in the schedule, since you and I worked on it, can I talk about the event I'm working on? Because gold badge holders might be interested in that.
Sure.
Okay, so some of you, if you're on the Facebook page, might have seen me posting about getting some DMs because we were lining up for a special event. It's the page mini campaign. It's kind of like a tournament. There are definitely some tournament elements, but basically there's going to be 3 preliminary games that you can play. You can play 1, 2, or 3 of them, and you can earn an opportunity to play in the final on Sunday. This will be a campaign adventure that I'm writing, and it's being run by a small select group of GMs. There will only be so many of these things. I believe currently we're planning for 11 total sessions of the prelims, but we'll see. If we get a lot of signups, we'll see if we can fit in any more. But right now, it's going to be first come, first serve. There will be prizes. The adventure is being sponsored by WizKids. They are providing terrain, miniatures, various things that we will be using and then also giving away. So I encourage our people to sign up for that. In addition, one of our other guests, Stan, who was on just the other week, who's an artist, is going to be at select sessions of this doing sketches during the adventure. So you'll get to see in-game sketches of your characters doing all kinds of fun, exciting, or embarrassing things. And then we will publish those pictures so that people can have electronic copies of them, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's one sort of event. You can go and you can check out the descriptions on TTE right now if you look for the page mini campaign or search by my name.
So how do these campaigns work? Is this going to be like during the day or is it going to be at night?
Yep. No, they're regular sessions. Right now we're scheduling games at 10 to 2, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. We have a special gold badge one at 7 p.m. on Thursday night.
Okay.
But we're doing a couple of sessions a day of each of them. So like there's basically 3 different scenarios. You do not have to play all of them to qualify for the Sunday event. But the more you play, the more chances you have to qualify and the more clues and stuff you get that will be useful in the final event. So the stories are thematically connected. And the final will definitely be a sequel to the preliminaries. But like I said, you don't have to play all 3 preliminaries to enjoy the final adventure. I encourage people to play as many as they can, but that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm. We will provide characters. People will get to choose which pre-gens they want. We're going to provide more pre-gens than are necessary. So, nobody gets stuck with a character they don't like.
And people that are running other games, are there going to be night games too?
Overnight games or
I mean,
There are no games, but
well, yeah, I was just wondering because last year, I didn't get to play in a lot of games, and I know that some cons have night games, so I didn't know if Paige had any.
well, I think we're definitely scheduling from 8 a.m. to I think midnight. Is that correct, Ron?
yes, we skip at the convention center. We're going to be there depending on the day. The start time varies a little bit, but in the evenings, we do have space over at the hotel for open gaming, where there will be at least 20 tables for overnight open gaming, and then. Of course, the hotel has that huge lounge in the front at the Hilton Garden Inn, where you could probably fit another 20 games out there if you wanted to.
Cool.
Yeah, so Jenn from Frog God Games says she has I have my eyes on you. She says that to all the boys. She really does. All right. So, with that being said, Jennifer, would you like to take us out for the evening?
Of course. All right. Well, we will see you July 11th. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful 4th. And if you have time tomorrow, I'm streaming at 10 a.m. Eastern. So please drop by if you have a chance, and on the Blind Bar channel. And we'll see everyone later. Have a great 4th, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Good night. Take care.